morning, and welcome to the Morning DNA. I'm Aaron Dice, the man of single lecture. She is Danae, who's the woman of a million distractions, and we are here to find out what March 28th, 2022 is made of.
Holy crackers!
Yeah?
You are excited. Is it because today is your +1 day, Aaron?
Today is my +1 day. Yay, +1, +4.
Okay,
+4.
just throw up some stuff in the chat. It could be emotes. It could be hearts. It could be love.
Hearts do seem appropriate.
Hearts do seem appropriate.
Yeah.
Today is the day, the anniversary of the day that you
It was right about this time, actually.
died and came back to life.
Yeah, it was right about this time in the morning.
Exactly.
We had
Perfect
just
organ.
we had just done our show, our version of the show. Then I think we were recording stuff ahead of time.
I had left.
And putting it in. You left, and I decided for whatever reason to go upstairs and see if my wife had left for work yet. She had not left for work yet. I died. She brought me back to life, and we move on. Like. Wild.
And you wake up days later.
Wild.
But then also have like a fuzzy couple weeks in there where the meds were legit.
Yeah, I don't remember a few months there for sure.
It is Aaron's Easter. That's exactly right, Lolly.
Well, in fact, it happened over Easter weekend.
It did.
By the way. So yeah. Yes, it did happen Easter weekend of 2018. Easter weekend of 2018.
Lolly says, I'm sorry. I'm sure that was terrifying. And we were all grateful to have you here and healthy. Listen, it wasn't terrifying for Aaron.
No.
He was just like, BRB.
I was here one moment, and then I was gone, and then a couple months later, I was starting to remember things again.
JCD coming in with the very important reality of quick appreciation for Mrs. Dicer.
Yeah.
Exactly. We all stand that woman. She is a rock and literally saved her husband's life. It was incredible.
Indeed. Yeah, that is not a metaphor.
Nope.
I would not be here without her.
We're all grateful to her. And to the fast responding crew that got here. Well, to your house, not here. We didn't live here.
Correct.
The studio was not here at the time. Although,
Correct.
If we had this house then, the studio would surely have been here.
Yeah, I think that, well, I don't know. Yeah, it was interesting because we already had, it depends on when you got the house. If you got that house before we got this house, yes, we would have built a studio in that house. If that's what you're saying. Yes, I think that is what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. Yes. Love it. No Clue coming through with the whole heart, broken heart, whole heart Band-Aid, whole heart. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Glad you're here, man.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here as well.
Even though I try to clamp down my emotions all the time, I did get emotional when you died. And then
not right now, though. Not thinking about it right now.
And then I have had several tears over the years thinking about if you weren't here. It kills me.
Look at me.
You cry for me. That's the beauty of our friendship. I don't have to cry. You cry for me. That's the beauty of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Glad you're here. For real.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
What a day.
Nice.
What a day.
Yeah. Definitely.
Slapped back to life.
No slaps. No slaps were needed. It is definitely always going to be an interesting day, March 28th for me, and I'll talk about it later with my topic as well. So
cool.
Yeah.
Guys, I just realized. So you've seen me with this mug many times. It's actually a set. I have a set of 6 mugs. Podcast listeners, every time I start the show, I'm drinking coffee. That is large in part because I likely just woke up a minute ago and need it. And or feel like I want it. I love the taste of coffee. Anyway, they're a set. So I have the same mug, 6 of the same mug. And I just realized that this one has a V-shaped chip coming out of it.
Oh, no.
So it might not make it. It must have gotten dropped at some point in time. So I've got this little...
oh, no.
So I might lose one of the set. However, don't panic. I will still have it.
So does a little thing like that change your ability to use it? Like you don't, because you might cut your lip on it? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I'm just gonna drink. So it's on this side. So I'll just drink from the opposite side, which is fine.
Okay. You just have to remember where to hold. You have to hold it in your right hand instead of your left hand.
It's true, which is fine.
Got it.
But it reminded me of you have your favorite things that you drink. You have your routines, and then suddenly, maybe something isn't there anymore. Yeah. Like when your radio partner decides to decides
to. I did. I was sitting there on the bed and I was like, what would be really fun and everybody would love is a nice little April Fool's prank, which, by the way, not only Easter weekend,
It was April Fool's as well.
Day's weekend.
Yeah.
Really just like, what if I could actually die? And then everybody would have to deal with the ramifications.
It would be
of that.
hilarious.
I'd get so much love. It was really a narcissistic play on my part to be the center of the universe. So thank you.
Usually you tell me about these things and loop me in, but no.
No. I needed everybody to be unaware.
Well, it worked.
Good.
It worked.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Aids, for understanding my meaning about my coffee mug and how it is a thing. It's a routine that you get. Aids says, got my one big mug for tea, and it would suck if it breaks. However, I was getting a little bit of appropriate razzing in the chat about Danae being like, my cup is broken. Aaron's like, hey, remember when I died? Thanks, Lolly, for the levity.
Perspective. It's all perspective. It's all about, listen, both things can be true. Both things can be
100%.
annoying. It doesn't have one does not have to discount the other. That is for sure. I remember when my water bottle a couple weeks ago broke. I dropped it and like the whole bottom broke off, and there were 2 days there before Amazon could get me another one. And it was like, how do I drink water now? Like what? I don't have any other containers I could put water in.
No,
it's crazy. That's
at least not ones that are the size of a small baby. My God.
I mean, that's a medium-sized baby. That is.
I'm going to be talking about the Oscars in my topic today. Are you?
No, my topic's going to be my +1 day. So we'll go different directions. I actually looked at your topic before I decided. I was like, well, if we have to talk about it this morning at some point.
We have to talk about it.
I just wanted to make sure it was covered.
Do we talk about it and then we go on to the official doing of the show, shooing of the dough, or do we just jump right in?
You ready to shoe a dough? Let's just shoe a dough.
Let's shoe a dough.
Yeah, let's shoe a dough. We're going to do the DNA and U. We'll do a Denise topic.
Hey guys, look, here's my donut for later. That was chocolate touched it.
Oh, that's chocolate. I for a second I was like, no, not that. No, I didn't think it was that. No.
Wait, what is happening? What did you think was on my donut?
I thought you had fried it or something, like you had tried to warm it up on the stove because you hate microwaves so much. I was like, wait, did she put that in a skillet? Or something.
Davey Cousins, thanks for the follow.
Yeah, no,
so did Slab. Thought somebody burned.
Yes, it kind of looked like burns. It really did kind of look like there were burns on it from a distance. Yeah, especially the way that one on the other side kind of just like has like scorch mark. It looks like scorch marks for sure.
This is it touching another donut in the donut bag, and if it's not, I will update you. If it's not what I think it is, we have problems.
So a D topic, an A topic, and plenty of U topics. And we do have the ability to star your U questions now. So get them in at any point. Any question you have for us, we will address it at the end of the show. Anything you want us to talk about, topics you want us to hit, questions you have for us, it is all fair game. We will choose what to answer. All right, Danae, let's get into it. What is your topic today?
Especially for podcast listeners in the future. So in the time that we are in now, we are waking up the day after the Oscars, hashtag the one in which Will slapped Chris.
Yeah.
So I think the Oscars, there's always something that stands out usually, and it should be the winner of the award. Usually the one that people are most excited about.
Speeches, maybe, some fun stuff, maybe a skit that worked or didn't work or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but this time it's Will Smith getting on the stage and slapping another presenter who had just made a comment about his wife's hair, likely trying to make a comment in light fun, as comedians do on the grand stage of the Academy Awards.
I still haven't heard if he knew about, like, if he was aware of her alopecia or not. I still haven't heard for sure.
The assumptions are still like coming in because we don't have like official statements or anything, and so it's like very, very fresh. So
we know Chris Rock has decided not to press charges. That's about all we know. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I like how the chat is calling it the slappening.
Sure.
It very much feels that way. So I've just been thinking about it. Like I have an opinion on it. We can talk about it for a while. I've been thinking about it a lot. But for me, where I come down to, and this is what my question is to you guys in the chat this morning, is how quickly do you apologize in your life? Is it something that you think about a lot before you offer an apology? Is an apology something that you kind of hold close to your chest because you want to make sure you're feeling some kind of way before you apologize? Do you make sure you think you're in the wrong before you apologize? Or are you somebody who kind of is like, you know what? I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'm just going to go ahead and apologize because I've been thinking about this myself. Like, how would I have responded? Because let's just be honest, I'm a bit of a hothead at times.
What?
I've worked for a great number of years at calming my reactions down. And I can see myself being the kind of person who gets swept up in the emotion of a moment and does something on a bigger stage, not thinking about the ramifications of it, or doing it from ego or for show or from whatever the seed of what Will did. I can maybe see myself doing something like that. That's the first thing I do is I put myself into both shoes, right? I can kind of see myself doing like that. I can either see myself saying something that is offensive and didn't mean to and getting myself in trouble. I could do that.
And again, we don't know if he meant to or not. Yeah.
We don't know. And I could also see myself getting in the moment and slapping somebody. I can see myself getting that worked up. But I also have worked for a long, long time, not only calming that down, but finding some humility in myself. And when I need to apologize, despite the awkwardness, is learning to apologize. It was very hard for me. One of the biggest apologies I ever had to do was a challenge that actually Aaron was involved in, where I felt really, really wronged by a radio station that I worked for and the management that was at that radio station. And they had made a whole series of decisions I felt were really, really inappropriate. And I was challenged by our consultant, Aaron and I's consultant at the time, to talk to them and apologize. And I was like, what? No, I'm not apologizing for like anything that happened. This was like on them. They started it. They set the atmosphere. I'm just living in it. I'm reacting to their baloney. I'm reacting to their crap. And then the more that we talked with this consultant, the idea was that, yeah, but there's still something inside of there that you could bring to the table and say, hey, I could have done this differently. And you can just start there. And it's incredible after that moment when we did go to the table and I did say that I was sorry for my part in it, how that just really opens up a conversation that starts from a place of humility in a way. It's almost like it almost diffuses in a way. And I've utilized that tactic to my advantage. The beauty of manipulative apologetics. I'm just kidding. I'm kind of kidding and not. I do apologize now, much easier. That is the truth. Sometimes it's faster than I want it to be, but I know that I want to get it out of my system. I want to get it out of my person. So,
yeah.
I want to come to you guys, chat, because I say the chat flying right now.
Yeah, let's suggest some general stuff first, and then while people are thinking about their answer to this question, because I do absolutely want to come to chat. I want to start with this because I really identify with it. Castro says, I'm honestly torn between wanting to have a serious conversation about what they both did wrong and wanting to joke about an Academy Award-winning actor slapping an Academy Award-winning or Academy Award presenter at the Academy Awards. This is exactly where I'm at.
This is where I'm at too.
I don't want to take this too lightly, but what just happened? Like there's this element of it that is, forgive me, funny. There is something that is weirdly humorous about like almost like self-parody in a weird way.
It's insane
like,
to me.
Right.
This is why I thought it was fake at first. I was like, this is insane. This is so insane that it has to be something that was planned. That's how insane this is.
That's how crazy. So I'm totally with you, Castro. I feel the same way. I think what we have to continue to give each other the grace to do is exist in both worlds. Exist in the world where this is happening outside of us as a television show, and exist in the world where these are two real human beings who made choices last night.
They made choices.
And talk about their choices and how that and how we feel about those choices and if we would make the same choices. I think all of those are.
And there's context that's missing.
Of course.
We're missing.
That's almost why the TV show angle is better, right? Because we don't have all the context of the personal stuff.
We don't know so much about Is there a history between them? Is, like, we don't know any of those things.
No. We just know the public stuff. We know Chris Rock has, joked about Jada missing the Academy Awards when he hosted the Oscars, like kind of threw a couple jabs there. Like anything public we know, but we don't know any of the circles that they share together, any of that stuff. So, yeah.
There's already some messages in the chat about like the history, just some known things that kind of came up in our room last night when we were all watching together. It's clear that whatever happened, it was a big explosion and we were the witnesses to that explosion. Here's what I come down to. In that moment, would I have preferred to have seen some kind of a resolution, like an apology of some kind? Why do I need that? Is that important? That's not mine. That's their story. So that's what I brought it back into myself. And I was like, okay, so bring it into what I'm capable and what I'm in control of in my life. And when I put myself into an awkward situation where I feel like maybe an action that I've done is justified, but I still have something that I need to own, that's where the apologetic conversation comes in. Yeah. And obviously there's a lot going on in this question. We're not talking about a specific circumstance. Sometimes it's not okay to go and apologize to people because there's a dangerous element there. I've definitely talked to people in the past about this topic, and it's like, listen, if there's a dangerous person on the other end that you want to have a conversation with, maybe that's not something that you should do, is go and have an apology, with them. So obviously this is kind of a generic question, just meant to just to be chatty about. I'd like to start here. Okay. I just saw one a moment ago.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll just go ahead and quickly say this, and I've said it before. I kind of come to this educational process from the opposite side of most people. I was raised an apologizer. I was raised to know the beauty of how it feels when you say you're sorry and the grace that comes from others when they say, you know what, we'll get through it. It's okay. Let's have resolution. That is a glorious feeling. Like there are few things in this world better than the idea of finding peace with someone who you didn't have peace with before. Because of that, I apologize for many, many things in my life for a long, long time that were not my fault. And
yes, someone mentioned that in the chat too. I'm glad you're talking about that.
In doing so, what I have done is I have stolen the opportunity for others to grow. I have stolen the opportunity for others to own their own actions and to own their own beliefs, their own thoughts, and to have to really wrestle with those because I take that away from them. I feel like I'm doing them a service. I feel like I'm the one who can eat that and be okay. But in honesty, I'm not letting them grow. And finding that balance has been so weird for me. Very, very weird for me.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something about an apology that can diffuse things. I like this comment from Michael who says, I think apologies serve two purposes: to acknowledge your mistake and to acknowledge someone else's hurt feelings. At the end of the day, though, you're only responsible for what you can control. And guiding that is interesting. Let's see. I saw one that I really wanted to bring up in chat. You are flying, which I love.
Yeah, no, well, it's obviously an important thing to think about, and it is also one of those things where you when you apologize, if it's not something that you actually believe or mean, you're also doing yourself a disservice.
Which is exactly this comment. Lolly says, "Where's the line between explaining during an apology versus excuses and justification?" That's really the root of what an apology kind of feels like for me. I try so hard to just keep it inside of, here's what I could control, and here's what I'm saying I wish I would have done differently. And sometimes, depending on the situation, I'll actually say, this is what I would wish I would have done differently, just depending on the circumstance. The rest of it, like how it impacted them or whatever, is kind of up to that person. I usually will try to also say something like, do you want to talk about it? Like, is there something that you want me to hear you say? Because if they need to vent about how whatever I've done impacted them positively or negatively, because by the way, I've apologized for good things too. It's not all bad. Sometimes something good is like,
explain that.
Like sometimes really cool things happen. For example, one time I found this really great, entire wall piece for $150 on Facebook Marketplace at the time when I was on Facebook. RIP Facebook. And
Is that a wishful RIP?
no, it's just like goodbye.
Yeah.
I haven't been on Facebook in so long, it's crazy. And I bought it without having like an agreement with Justin. I just was like, nope, I am doing this. And it turned into a really, really super good thing. Afterwards, he was like, man, I'm so glad that you pushed me outside of my comfort zone. But I did something positive. I did something good. I did something that had really good reaction, but I made people uncomfortable in that process. And so it's kind of interesting sometimes to be like, I'm going to say I'm sorry, but I'm still doing it because this is still the right decision. Almost like a pre-apology, which isn't meant to be a justification. It's tricky. You know, you don't want to, well, I shouldn't say you, like I'm talking for myself. I don't want to apologize and say, I'm sorry for this, but it's that but at the end that really shifts things. It should just be, this is what I'm sorry for, and keep it in your wheelhouse and don't make assumptions about what the other person's feeling or what they want to talk to. And that's where your ego and hubris really can come into play in these kinds of conversations, because you, of course, want to defend yourself and you want that person to understand, you know, your intentions or whatever the situation might be. But it's so interesting to do the work of just saying you're sorry for something, even though part of you is justified in making somebody uncomfortable or doing something wrong that you need to apologize for. Yeah. What are some of the comments that are standing out to you that you want to jump in here with, Aaron?
Boy, I kind of want to keep it on topic for a little bit since we're really talking about this. So let's go with Michael, and we may get to some of the other general comments about the situation last night, because there are other topics that are worth, you know, just chatting about. But Michael also says, I'm usually quick to apologize in order to comfort the other person and make sure to check that I'm not in the wrong. See, this is for me where I'm trying to learn, and what I think I've been trying to do over the last several years, once I learned that I apologize too much, is to really understand what self-exploration is, right? And I think that's what Michael is touching on here. The idea of, what do I apologize for and why? What do I own? And by the way, it's not always going to be the same perspective of the person that you have hurt or the person that you are in a conversation with. They may think you own things that you don't think you own. That's part of the difficulty about apologies, is sometimes you're not going to get the apology you want, or the other person isn't going to get the apology they want, because you actually disagree on, you know, what part of it is something I own. That is difficult. And that is, to me, the key to incredible relationships and long-term relationships is understanding it's okay. It's okay that we see this differently. Here, I want you to know that I love you, I respect you, and I want to continue this amazing friendship we have. But, you know, we may just not agree on this, so let's, you know, move on. Or let me tell you what I feel reflecting is a great way to find this out. You know, let me state what I feel you are saying to me so I can better understand it, even if I don't agree with it. Because understanding is really, at the end of the day, apologies are great. Understanding is even better. And understanding what you are saying before you say it is important. I think being quick to apologize sometimes almost feels like a quick way out to not have to consider your role and part in a misunderstanding or an argument, or, you know, because apologies usually come along with just an uncomfortable moment, whatever that might be. I think a lot of times people reserve apology for huge things. We can apologize for little and small things, and maybe it is too much. This is interesting from Castrif, who says, there's honestly been times when I've apologized and I feel like I should have stood my ground instead. And Lolly adds, I definitely can think of times I've apologized and groveled, and the next day realized I did nothing wrong. And now I try to be mindful of why I am apologizing. What's my motive? And am I sincere, or am I just diffusing or appeasing to avoid an argument? These are all really important thought processes that, when you're in various relationships, friendships, family ships, love ships, whatever your ships are, you get to experience the uncomfortable awkwardness of doing life with people and messing it up. And then also going, I actually didn't do anything wrong here. So if I say I'm sorry, it diffuses something that I'm not responsible for, because that's in you. And I think that's some of the growth that Aaron was talking about earlier, is stealing away
someone else's part and role in their own behavior and their own stuff.
Yeah.
So last night, for example, Will, he did apologize to the academy and to his mother, for example. Those are two things that were really heavy on his mind in the moment, which is a really interesting peek into psychology, in my opinion. He might still be working through whether or not what he did was right or wrong. And we have yet to see if he's going to carry any of this in the public eye. And we're going to have speculations about this probably for the rest of, this is just one of those huge moments that everyone kind of got to hear and see the slap that was heard and seen around the world kind of a thing. It was absolutely one of the most insane things I have ever seen on TV. And I still can't believe that it happened, but it has caused so much conversation. And I feel like one of the biggest roots of it is people wanting to have that resolution of apology and figure out who is right and who is wrong. But sometimes apologizing doesn't actually show the truth in any of that, because it's in your heart. It's here where you kind of know if you really wanted to say you're sorry or need to say you're sorry or talk about it in some kind of a way.
Yeah.
Anyway,
a couple more that I wanted to get to here. Slab says, to people, it takes a minute for me to humble myself. To my girls or around my girls, as soon as I muck up, I make sure they see me apologize and know it's expected of them too. The parenting aspect of this is really important. And saying you're sorry and I was wrong to your kids, I think is really, really important.
It is.
And it's important for them to see. However, the other part of that is also important, that they understand that you are patterning something, not saying that they're always right. Because it's very easy for a kid to hear oh, good, I'm glad my parents know I'm the one that's always in the right. You know what I mean? They're still learning. And so hopefully they will see that as a guide, as a pattern for their life, as opposed to permission. And it sounds like you understand the balance of that, which is not always easy.
No, you're not wrong, especially children, because they're born into the world and catered to so much. It's an interesting growth to learn when you are responsible for your own behaviors, when you're responsible for getting your own food from the refrigerator. There's this individuality. I mean, you're born and you're kind of served in a lot of ways, and breaking out of understanding where you're not served anymore is an interesting process. And I think sometimes, even as we become adults and we go through the different phases of our life, we still have that instinctive need to be served and to have people come to us instead of going to others. And apologizing can be one of those moments when you come out of yourself and you humble yourself in a way, because you're not guaranteed that person is going to be open and receptive or even understand or need your apology, because you're apologizing for yourself more than you are for them in a lot of ways. It's something that I've had to also come to terms with is, I need to do this. This isn't for them. This isn't so that we're even. This isn't so that when they look back on time, I can say, well, I apologized for that, because that's not what it's about. When I apologize to Iris, I want her to see that I'm not outside of being wrong. I also don't want this to be lingering in my mind that I could have handled something differently.
Right.
And the unfortunate reality here, Kastref mentioned something about the phenomenon here. The phenomenon of demanding apologies from celebrities is far more toxic than helpful.
They don't owe us anything.
They don't. You're absolutely right. 100% they don't. I hope that for themselves that there is a kind of a resolution. And also I hope that in this moment, I feel like there could have been a precedent set, because something just happened that's absolutely crazy. But I feel like it was an interesting time. If I go into this alternate reality where maybe if Will would have been on stage and been like, I wish I would have handled that differently. I'm going to be working on that, or something, some sort of a moment but he obviously felt very justified in his behavior.
Right. How different
we all
is
get
today?
to have opinions about it because it was public.
Yeah. How different is today if Will goes up, says, I'm going to say something, takes the stage from Chris and says, my wife has battled with alopecia. It's been very sensitive. That was a tasteless joke. And I just want to stand here and say, and defend my wife and say, this is not something we want you to joke about. and handled it differently in that way. Or even just, from his seat, even if he got angry, just said, that's not okay. How different is the conversation today to the fact that he felt like he had to bring physical violence into it?
It could be different because it's still something that we don't know if we would believe. David B.S. Stowe says, I did not enjoy viewing the event, but the slap. But my mind wondered if Will Smith's apology to the Academy and others was more PR or heartfelt sorrow for his actions. This is something that people will have opinions about. We will never know because we don't get to peek into each other. And when someone's apologizing to you, you don't get to know 100% if that person is being...
You have a choice to make.
You don't know. And that person that you're apologizing to, they don't get to know 100%. All you can do is experience the apology from the inside of you out to someone, and you get to make choices on what you believe from the other person. Also, want to say this. Just because somebody apologizes to you doesn't mean that you are then obligated to continue into cycles and patterns that are not working for you. I've been in abusive relationships where, the apology almost becomes some sort of like, okay, now we get to start over again. The forgive and forget element that is sort of like sprinkled into our society, which is incredibly toxic. We don't have to continue into that cycle. Someone can apologize and you can say, thank you for apologizing. I'm still done. I'm still not wanting to do this anymore. I'm still making this choice. You can accept that that person is sorry and not be obligated to continue with them. And that might be something that Will has to see. And I'm wondering if the Academy is going to say, thanks for the apology. You're not welcome back here because this is inappropriate behavior.
There are two forms of reconciliation, right? And I have a comment from JCD that I'll pop up that after I say this that kind of goes with this. But there are two forms of reconciliation. There's reconciliation, let's be at peace and let's continue our relationship. And then there's reconciliation that's let's be at peace from a distance. Let's be at peace and go on with our lives.
Yeah.
But reconciliation is about understanding that there is beauty in peace with all other humans in the world. JCD's comment says, I will say on this topic, sometimes apologizing won't fix things. I ruined a friendship once before, and I know I'm in the wrong. However, even with an apology, the damage is done. All you can do in those situations is to grow and learn. I will say it doesn't mean you shouldn't apologize. It doesn't mean if you know you're in the wrong, because that's looking at it as a results-based thing where I apologize because I want to save a relationship. You apologize because you know you wronged someone, you hurt them, and there's peace to be had there in that apology for you or for them or both. Just depends. But yeah, so I wanted to bring that up as well.
Well, thank you guys so much for weighing in on this. There's lots of angles for what happened, between Will and Chris. And I think ultimately this will be interesting to see how those who quote unquote have a right to react publicly will react. And I think that's the Academy. Will, Jada, and Chris are probably the only people that I will, if I'm looking for something from, I would be interested in what they would have to say today or in the coming weeks. But it's up to them on what they want to do. I do want to say, like, these kinds of deeper topics, I love that you guys as a chat are kind of willing to go into those spaces and share your stories, because apologies can stir up a lot of emotion. So I hope you are in a good place as we transition to Aaron's topic today.
Which I love. JCD says, well, now time for a lighter topic. Aaron, talk about the time you died. Yeah, we will do that. I will say I also saved some of those comments. We may address them in the You Question section as well, because I think there are some other angles of stuff that we could talk about with that. But yes, let's move on to the A topic for today, and that is this. If you knew this was your last week, what would you do with it? We are not granted this knowledge, usually. Some people actually are told this. It does happen. But in general, we are not granted the knowledge of when it's over, when our time is up. I would not have known if I had stayed downstairs and not gone upstairs that day to tell my wife goodbye and see if she was still home. I would not be with you here today. I would have been gone 4 years ago. There would have been a funeral. There probably would have been tears. Like life would be very different right now. And that is a very real possibility. That's not, I mean, who knows why I decided that day for whatever reason, because I didn't every day. I would stay and work in the studio on a lot of days because often Jen had already gone to work. So I'm very thankful that I continue to have these extra years. But we don't always know that. So my question is, if you knew that this was your last week, what would you do with that time?
Man, people making memories. I would probably record some things that I would want people to be able to listen to in the future, like just some elements of hoping that parts of me get to linger in people's lives for a while. So if I didn't feel like I had said what I wanted to say, I would delete my browser history. And oh wait,
that's just an assumed one for everyone. That's just
no, but there is an element where it's like, okay, I have a week. I need to make sure that all of my passwords are handed off to other people because they're going to have to get into all of my stuff, right? If they want to find certain pieces of information. But there's so much that's interesting about you that goes away if you pass, that's digitally just like dead and gone, because if no one knows how to get to it.
Sure.
So kind of setting people up for success. If it wasn't medical, I would go get life insurance.
That is so, what an interesting thing. Just be like, just here for life insurance, guys. No reason at all. Because you're right. They could run tests and not know anything. If you knew, it just depends on why you know. If this is like a metaphysical
premonition
thing.
that I'm going to be gone.
Yeah.
But I think the easy answer is just, all right, let's take a big chunk out of savings. Let's fly people. Let's all get together. Let's see each other. Let's have a big celebration. Let's all hug and cry and talk about what might be on the other side and like just have a beautiful memory. And I think that would be a really important thing for me. I do feel like sometimes, it's like, okay, I'm going to go do something I've never done before because there's no time any longer. But a week isn't too long. And I feel like I would want to just spend it with the people that mean the most to me. It's really interesting. Over the past few weeks, I've been getting texts from people that have been kind of on my heart. I was just thinking about Tracy. I was just thinking about Chuck. I've these people that I haven't talked to in years and years. And I got a text from both of them in the last 24 hours. And I wonder what that stuff is. I wouldn't be able to see every person that I've ever spent time with or that I would want to connect with. There's not enough time there, but I would probably just have an open party celebration and be like, whoever wants to come. We're going to have a big party and then have a big celebration and then just chill with my close people until hopefully I just disappear, like a cool like snap version where it's not some awkwardness. Actually, I want all my organs to go to people who are still on the planet and need them. Take my eyes, take my heart, whatever still is functioning well, and peace out. See you on the flip, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I don't think they're gonna want your eyes, but yeah,
they might. Someone who doesn't have good eyes would maybe want to have a little bit better.
It could be. There might be people with worse vision than you. It's possible. I've looked through those glasses. It's a whole different world through those glasses.
If these were not the special kind of glass, they would be very thick. Let's just say.
One thing I wanted to point out in what you said was, hey, come hang out. And I think you really, especially when you're dealing with a week, you almost have to say, I'm here. Come hang out with me.
You can't go everywhere.
You can't make those trips because then you're wasting time. You could be spending with, someone on an airplane or in a car. Or that's why when people talk about I'd go see the Grand Canyon or I'd go to Australia or, the place I always wanted to see, I respect that. But at the same time, if you really know it's your last week, are you going to spend 28 hours in an airplane during your last week? Are you going to spend a full day traveling? It's interesting how the question changes if it goes from a day to a week to a month to a year, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting how that shifts things. And I think that's a statement on how we always feel like there is more time. We always feel like, Because honestly, you could record things today, Danae. You have the ability to sit
What?
down, start an audio file,
What?
and say, hey, I just want you to know this.
I don't know how to
for when I'm
podcast.
gone.
What are you talking about?
Well, in honestly, for me, what we do and the fact that this lives
Yeah.
digitally is really special to me, because if I had gone 4 years ago, there's so much that people, if they were interested in what I had to say or who I was, or they, had a meaningful, close relationship to me, there are so many things they can go back to and hear me say and experience. So I like that. It's part of the reason I love doing this, is not just for how we get to be in the moment with it, but
It's like
also
an
because
archive.
it stays. Yeah, there's an archive that stays. And my dad did this with journals. Like, he has years and years and years of journaling he did that is kind of the same thing for him. And it's this way to experience each other after we're gone. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
We have a lot of really interesting
Let's get into
ones here. I like this one from Castriff, who says, furiously bang out my story ideas in as much detail as possible so they don't go untold. Love this. Make
It's a
your
real
outlines
creative
now.
brain kind of thing. I do have a couple of those. I don't know that I would care in my last week to take time to do that. Maybe I'm just not as creative brained as some, but those stories can go with me. I'd much rather hug on people and have deep conversations with people.
I love this one from Medina, who says, if this was my last week, I wouldn't do anything different. I have settled my estate. I have the people I want in my life. So I am all good. I love this so much.
That's living a good life right there, where you understand like that you've already lived your life in a way where it's okay if this is my, last week. I would hope that we could all find that peace.
Let's see. Wadox says, record a message, make sure everyone knows my 401k. This is what I was thinking. Life insurance information.
Yeah.
Does everyone know how to run the live stream at church? And then I go to Ireland with my wife and adult kids for the week. That sounds really good.
All right. Yeah.
Telling people that they love them is popping up in chat. Yeah. I think that's a really important part too. And I like that this question sifts out a lot of the noise and possibility. If it was a year, I think I would be like traveling. I think I'd figure out, okay, how can I go?
You would all of the sudden become the world's best planner. Like, this thing that you've never been like a real part of you, you'd just be like, this is my year, guys. This is what we're doing.
I don't know if I would plan it or if I would just be like, listen, I'm going to take some money and I'm going to go experience the world. And I'm going to come back where we still have enough time together, but I need to go adventure. I really would love to see a few things out of my own eyeballs instead of through a screen. I think that would be a really important kind of moment. But you're right. We're not guaranteed anything. And these kinds of questions are a reminder. Like, I'm like, okay, so here's the couple things I'd want to do right away. Well, maybe I should just go ahead and do them, like get an insurance policy, for example.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's nice to have, but it's a form of gambling, right? That's all it is. That's all life insurance is a form of gambling, is just saying, here, I'm going to put, $80 a month on these odds that if I go in the next 20 years, that we'll get $500,000 or whatever.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So
maybe I should start investing differently. But there's a lot of things I'm glad I'm already doing. Investing, just period.
Yeah.
But I think it's an appropriate thing to be thinking about given what today represents for you. And once again, I'm really, really glad that you're still around, Mr. Dicer.
Thanks, Danae. Michael brings up an interesting point. Says, I would skydive almost every day, and I wonder if my risk level would go up. If I knew that this was my last week, I wonder if that risk thing, like I'd do riskier things. So what? I shaved a couple days off my life.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't have a broken bone and then spend like a month
That's right. The pain. You're right. The pain would still be there of bad choices. Yeah. That'd be interesting.
Awesome. Well, let's go on to the you questions for the day. Thanks, guys, so much again for hanging out with us. You can ask any question that you'd like. Just throw that up in the chat and we will answer as many as we possibly can. Any question goes. Doesn't mean we won't answer them, or we will answer them rather. But we will do our best to get to all of them.
Let's start with Lolly's you question. Aaron, aside from the poor humor and violence, what was your biggest moment takeaway from last night's Oscars? Takeaway number 1, never let the internet decide anything. That was hilarious. And there is that I am not a trolley person, but I think we all have that seed of like serves you right. If you're going to ask the internet to pick best movie moment ever, best movie moment ever, and they're going with Flash going into the time in Snyder's cut for Justice League. Wild
Is that what
stuff.
Won?
Yes, that was the number one movie moment of all time. And then there was the best best movie, like fan movie of the year or whatever.
And that's the one that I saw that was confusing to me.
And the top 3 were movies like, one was this crazy bad Cinderella adaptation that actually cleaned up at the Razzies this year, which is like the worst of the year. And it was like the number 2 choice. The number 3 choice was this really weird Johnny Depp movie that nobody knew about and is just strange. And then number 1 again was the Snyder universe coming through with Army of the Dead, which was a Zack Snyder movie. So,
but there is this element too of inviting the internet into the process that is wise to be like, hey, come over here. We're willing to have a good time too. But it also diminishes a little bit of the purpose of this award.
That is not what they wanted. That is not there's no, they were. No, believe me, you'll know when you see it never happening again. That's when you'll know. Listen, I will eat my words if it happen. If they do it again next year, I will eat my words. But you are never seeing them do that again. It was wild. So that was lesson. Takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2 is, people wanted a feel good movie. People wanted to go with Coda. Totally understand it. Coda is an amazing, beautiful film. There are 3 emotional moments right at the end. Boom, boom, boom. I cry at all 3 of them every time I watch the movie. It is beautiful. It's about love. It's about humanity. Glad to see it win. I don't think it was the best movie last year, but I get it. People wanted to celebrate it, and that was beautiful. So, yep. I have plenty of others, but if you want, you can watch it all happen live. Danae was actually on the broadcast live when the moment happened. So you can see all of our reactions live on the Sif Pop Twitch. And
I may have reacted inappropriately.
Listen, I give grace to anybody in that moment, because like I said, you've got 2 brains. You're an entertainment show brain, like what is happening here before me, and honestly, like we said, maybe the better brain to be in, because the brain that's like, let's talk about real things here is so short. Like, we don't have all the information, so we don't know what to do. So yeah, no, I understand your celebration of that moment where you were like, the Oscars are amazing.
I actually still in my head thought that there was a chance that it was staged.
Yes. Yeah,
also.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah. This one's from Arkin. I like this one. Would you pick up a hitchhiker? The reason that I ask is last week there was someone on the freeway and I thought quickly about it and then thought better of it. I have not picked up a hitchhiker from like the side of the road before, but I have driven strangers places before, and I don't know why I did what I did. Upon reflection, it was very dumb and dangerous. However, I did arm myself before going. I held a knife underneath my seat to my left I didn't have a 5-speed. So I went to the kitchen, got a knife, stuck it in my pocket, and then got in the car and held it while I was driving this woman across town, just in case I had to defend myself. So, I mean,
if you have to grab a knife, maybe just don't do it.
Listen,
maybe just don't do it.
Upon reflection, dumb all around, like I said.
Wow.
Wow. But sometimes you're like, I think I'm following my instincts and I think it's right. And I'm still here and nothing happened. Mm-hmm. And I hope I helped this woman out that was in need, who could have been dangerous. I also sized her up. And I also was like, I think I can take her.
Yes.
But if somebody has a weapon or something, that changes everything, which is why I evened the playing field and weaponized myself. Listen, I've been through a lot of weird situations in my life. Mm-hmm. It's hard to know what to do sometimes, but I feel like in today's day and age, you're like, hey, can I call you a cab or something? You know, like maybe you have the resources to assist them to at least get to the next place or whatever. But no, I have never picked up a hitchhiker. I was taught not to. And I do have to think about like how easy it is to take me out if I'm focusing on the road. And if anyone's focusing on the road and not paying attention to their environment because they have to drive, you're just at a disadvantage if somebody wants to be nefarious with you.
Lolly says, I hitchhiked once with a group in Italy. We rode in the flatbed truck full of cabbages.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Polly says, I picked up a guy on the side of the road, and then it turned out I knew him from several years prior, and we caught up on the ride.
That's cool.
That's wild.
That's really cool.
Doc says something that kind of hit my brain, too. It's like giving money to a homeless person. You hope for the best, but you expect the worst. You know, it's my answer is no. I don't know. I'm so risk averse. You know this about me. Like it's just like, and also I don't like spending time with new people.
Small talk?
As terrible as that is, small talk is like torture to me. But there's that part of me that's like, are you ignoring people in need? You know, like is there something that you can do? And I don't know. I justify it, and I tell myself that there have to be other people who are more in that person's life, and capable of actually helping them than me. And I don't know what led to them asking for a ride on the side of the road, but
it's hard because if you're in that situation, you hope that the right person stops, because that's the other part on the other side of it is if I ever was stranded and had to get a ride somewhere, getting into the stranger's car would be equally scary for me, because then you're at the mercy of this person that you've just jumped into their car. Yeah. I have listened to a lot of really scary podcasts like on true crime. So, woo! Yeah. Let's take this one from JCD, who asks, what is something about a job, the past can work, that you never looked forward to during the year? I ask this as I mix up herbicide to spray for weeds. I want my job to be weed free. Oh man, there's always that thing. There's always something about a job that is less fun than something else. And you know, hopefully you find one where it is just like a once a year situation. Cause then your question is
right,
like once a year, this happens. Oof. It's gotta be tax related, but that's just living in this country, really anywhere. Like getting the paperwork and having to do the paperwork that I don't like to do, or budgeting. I'm really lucky that I love my job. There's things year round that I struggle with, but like once a year things.
Well, I think I have the answer, Danae, and I think you'll agree with me. We'll go with a past job. Fundraisers in Christian radio are torture. I think I deal with psychological ramifications from those. I think I still am processing some of the things, some of the tactics that we were taught to have people give money to the station, and I process things about myself because of those, and that was twice a year that we would have to do those. So there's part of them that were the energy of them was fun. There is something about community and coming together for a common goal. I think there can be beautiful things. I don't want to come across as sounding like I don't understand the beauty of crowdfunding, because crowdfunding is a beautiful thing. I just think there are ways that it becomes manipulative that I played into, or can feel manipulative. And I'm still dealing with, but even on just a work level, I hated those weeks because they were long days,
exhausting,
lots of on air. And when you're on air, it's a different kind of energy.
You have so much to think about. And when you're running the board, like it's not just talking at the microphone, you're behind, you're directing this entire show,
producing the show,
producing it all at the same time, making sure that everything sounds good, and trying to talk to the audience about how the radio station continues with their support. You're right. That was a really difficult one. Doc says, I work at Walmart, and inventory or counting the merchandise is a nightmare. I've never worked in an environment that had to do inventory, but I've heard that it's exhausting. So
yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to Medina, who says, "Do we need to redefine toxic masculinity?" That's a deep question. Let's get into this.
Oh dear.
This also goes along with something that Lolly said earlier in the Oscar conversation, which I think is probably where this is coming from. Lolly says, "I've seen a lot of people apologizing for him." That would be Will, with the standing up for his wife defense. There's a whole other conversation about violence and toxic masculinity here. So yeah, there is.
Let's first, I think it's interesting, redefine toxic.
That's the word that I'm catching on too.
I'm getting caught on that too. And I don't know if the intention here is, do we need to talk about it, or is it redefine it? Because if something happened on stage with Will last night that added to the conversation about toxic masculinity and how we need to add in a new verbiage to the topic of toxic masculinity. So I saw this question pop up earlier, and I just went over, did a quick Google search, and just to state it, the concept of toxic masculinity, according to Wikipedia, is used in academic and media discussions of masculinity. It refers to certain cultural norms that are associated with harm to society and men themselves. That's the quote unquote definition on Wikipedia as it stands. And of course, Wikipedia is guided by the community. So if there was a chance for us to influence this conversation, this topic, to add something to it, to redefine it in some way, I'm taking what you're saying to mean, can we speak to toxic masculinity and alleviate some of the harm that it can cause? That's kind of what I'm assuming Medina means here.
Obviously, when you deal with communication, let me say something really obvious, but something that continues to need to be said. When you deal with communication, you deal with words, you deal with phrases, you're dealing with symbols. You're dealing with sounds that we all interpret in our own ways. And so when you say something like toxic masculinity, you're going to have ideas of what that means. You're going to have things that you bring into it, and everyone is. So when you talk about redefining something, I think we should always be redefining things because we're trying to come to, and now I'm going to use the word again, understanding with each other, right? And so we continue to redefine what a word means to us based on another person's perspective. So now I've heard what you think of this. Oh, so this word can mean this to you. So when I use this word, I might be saying this to someone else. That is communication. We think words mean things. They don't. They're symbols for things. When you say dog, you have an image that comes into your mind. Somebody else has a different image.
I'm seeing a collie. You're seeing a Saint Bernard. It's a breed.
It's a symbol. The sound dog is just a symbol for a thing that we're trying to come to understand about.
And if you're saying like you're being a dog, that might be really offensive to someone else and really adorable to someone else. And this is why it's really difficult on a big stage, on the world stage, like the Academy Awards, sometimes to have a representation of a topic. And then all of us are trying to put words to what happened so that we can define it and have a conversation about it. And I'm really hoping that in general, the community at large are trying to find a way to unify instead of diversify, or to get division from this, because there's so much division already. We can use something like this as an example of how to redefine or speak life into, which is, I think, how I'm interpreting this question. Because, like toxic masculinity as a general topic, if I dig into it even more, there's like certain bullet points of like, what defines this sort of culture? And if we're going to redefine it, are we adding in something else now that we've all seen an example of what some would call toxic masculinity on display? But the one that stood out to me more than that is like that slap for me had more than just toxic masculinity in it somewhere. It was a soup of emotion. It was a soup of ego, and it was a soup of like this human being that we all saw react, and it's still a human being, right or wrong, that I hope has the time to figure out what Will wants people to remember this moment by, and he still has a chance to kind of speak into it, and maybe not be an example? Because like right now, I just feel like there's a lot of people watching how he's going to own his actions and what he's going to say. The speech is so close to the moment. I doubt that it encompasses everything that he would want to say. I'm really curious if like what he will say next and what it will be like.
There's a lot still to be told. But I will say, from my perspective of this topic on this issue, what's interesting to me, and I think we all can do better at checking ourselves on this stuff, is when we are aware of something we did wrong or something we could have done differently, but then we continue the mindsets that got us there. And this to me is evident in his speech, which was several minutes later. Some of the things he said in his speech are representative of the exact same things that brought him to that stage to make that decision. And you can call this toxic masculinity, you can call them whatever, but it's just in that, man, you could dissect his acceptance speech, whatever you want to call it. We could dissect that forever, but there are definitely some elements in there that are the same root that is the root of getting up out of your chair, walking up there and slapping a fellow human because of a joke they made. And they come from the same place. And our ability as humans to recognize the actual root of why we're doing what we're doing, and whether that's cultural, whether that's trained. I also and I'm just stating a fact. I'm not trying to provide judgment on this, although we could certainly have those conversations. His son tweeted very quickly after that moment, "That's how we do what we do," something like that. Like, and you know that this is, or you know what, I should look it up before I say, because it was something like that. Those weren't the exact words that Jaden tweeted, but it was something similar to that idea of, kind of like "go get him, Dad," kind of feeling to it.
That's how we do it.
That's how we do it was the tweet. That's how we do it. And you go, okay, but let's explore that. Let's explore what that means. Let's explore, because that again is the same seed, right? Like that is the seed of whatever this thing is. Like, this is how you defend yourself. And again, that's a different conversation to place judgments on, to like really explore and figure out, when do you defend yourself in that way? When is physical altercation okay? I have my own very pacifistic ideas on that. But yeah, it's for me, I think the point to be made in this moment is explore those things in yourself. Whatever what leads to the action is often more important than the action itself. So yeah.
Yep. Once again, thank you all for being here with us for the show. We don't often get to talk about something so intense that just happened in culture.
Yeah.
But we did get to do that with you guys today. We're obviously unpacking a lot, and we have a lot to think about as a community. Thanks for being a part of our community. Thanks for supporting us on our Patreon, patreon.com/StudioDNA, where we have been producing content like the podcast Shoe the Dough for a long time.
It'll be 10 years in July.
10 years in July? Holy crap. We should have a party.
We should. We absolutely should.
Okay. We have been going live on Twitch for almost a year, right?
Yes. More than a year, I believe.
More than a year? Mm-hmm. So this new iteration of the show that Aaron and I do is a delight and a treasure for us. Living here on Twitch with you guys, although we do have people that tune in from other places, and we appreciate you guys joining in as well and listening to the podcast. Those of you who still just listen to the podcast and have kind of adjusted to this new format where you're hearing us interacting with the chat as we go, and listening to me every week say we're going to be rating someone and being like, what are you talking about?
How do I rate somebody on my podcast player? Which we know there are several of you. We know that a few hundred people listen to this on podcasts, and that's exciting. Thank you for doing that.
It is exciting. We really love that you guys are always just part of the drumbeat of what we do. Aaron and I have said this many times. We love talking. He and I love getting into deeper topics and chatting and having fun and being silly, and then also just like diving into the depths of our brains.
Thanks for the grace. Thanks for the grace of letting us do that and letting us be human. Yeah.
We would do this if it was just Aaron and I, but you guys get to come along too, and it means a lot to us. We hope you have a really, really good week. We'll see you on next Monday, I believe. Wait, hold on. No, next week right? We are going to be
We could
gone.
do the show before we leave. We could if we wanted to.
No.
To be determined. No. Okay. No, we are not. We're
We're
gonna be
not.
packing.
We already
Okay.
decided it's off of the calendar. So we
All
will
right.
be out of town next week. But we're going to go see Not Bush for the Raiders. Enjoy. He's doing Gimli today, and I'm super excited to go see that. And we will see you guys in a couple of weeks when we get back in town. So,
All right. We'll see you then.
bye.